Hello, and welcome to the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi, and welcome to the April 29th, 2022 edition of the Astro Energy Astrology Show with me, your astrologer in Orlando, Florida. My name is Shelley Overton, and I want to welcome you. We are going to talk about what's going on in the sky this week, and also probably touch a little bit again on the Johnny Depp trial. Just a little bit, because we're going to do Amber Heard today, because we didn't do her last week, and I think it's worth noting. Okay, so this week, big week for planetary shifts. Friday the 29th, we have a moon in Aries today. It's wrapping up its time in Aries. It enters Taurus at 8:19 p.m. And that's pretty important because Saturday we have a new moon in Taurus. But Friday, Pluto, the planet that is legalities, law, lawyers, government, hierarchy of commitment in partnership, and basically joint finances for marriage. That planet is going retrograde. So all those things I just listed will be affected. It rules lawsuits, it rules lawyers, and it is definitely going to rule what's going on in this trial. So as we see it retrograde, what does that mean? It means that we move forward with what we think of our place in society, how others view our value. And when it retrogrades, it gives us time to review that and evaluate how other people think of us. And it is also, of course, because of the lawsuit, going to affect it. We'll talk about that when we get to the Amber Heard part of this podcast. But for everyday people, it's going to affect how we feel emotionally, because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. And that means that we are going to have a shift of heart, a change of heart. And part of that is, while Pluto's been moving forward, it's been in Capricorn, like I said, many times. It is in late degrees of Capricorn. It's at, I believe, 27 today. And I'm going to just look up on our chart here real quick. 28 degrees and 36 minutes. And it's in almost the last degree of Capricorn, but it doesn't quite get there because it retrogrades, and it retrogrades back to 26 degrees, and it won't go direct again until October. So April through October, good long time, 5 months. And that means it gives us 5 months to really review what we think of what's going on and how we relate to the major shifts that Pluto is trying to make in our lives. I've touched on this in many shows, but I'll reiterate for those who are new, that basically Pluto and Capricorn is trying to get us in alignment, ready for Pluto and Aquarius next year, but it's telling us where we can no longer be codependent, be the person who takes care of everything for everybody else. And a lot of times that does translate to codependence, because what happens is we behave in a manner that is rather martyred. In other words, we do something and we are motivated by how we are going to get a response from someone else. When we do that, and someone else doesn't respond the way we think they will or think they should, based on social mores, such as, I do this for you and you respond in kind, that doesn't always work out that way. And more so as we move towards Aquarius, we're not going to get the response we have always gotten. And a lot of that is because it's based on hierarchy. It's based on needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are other people going to give us what we need to get to that self actualization, which is at the top of the hierarchy? So self-actualization means we have to look to self. We can't look to others anymore. And because Pluto is about the interaction, the dynamic with others, as we get closer to Aquarius, we are having to give up the old hierarchy, and we have to start moving towards that self-fulfillment of our own needs. And because we're in the last degrees, there is definitely this concentration of energy from Capricorn. And when Pluto goes retrograde in Capricorn, it means that now we have to review if we've gotten to where we need to be as we are further along and getting ready for that major shift next year. As Pluto goes retrograde, so now we pull back our energy from giving it forward, from getting ready in the way we've been getting ready. Now we have to review those psychological storylines, because that's part of the Pluto story. Okay, so Pluto turns retrograde at 2:38 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday afternoon, and that's 11:38 a.m. Pacific time. Then following that, we have the moon in Aries squaring to Pluto in Capricorn, which is going to be significant. Having a moon in Aries answers to Mars, and Mars right now is in Pisces at 10 degrees. And so it's in more of an emotional, sentimental area, and it's not as powerful as, say, being in a fire sign, because it's in a water sign. The natural fire energy of Mars gets tamped down by water. And so we end up slogging with our emotions through, like the anger just gets diffused and tamped down. And that can be really even more frustrating than just going in the actual sign, fire sign that Mars likes. So having the moon, which is our emotions and our sense of security, answering to Mars, and Mars is in a water sign, and the moon is a water planet or water entity, squaring very intense water planet of Pluto in an earth sign, which means there is friction between the moon and Pluto, between wanting to take action that the moon in Aries would love to do, answering to the Mars in a water sign that is not letting us take action, squaring the hierarchy. And so emotions are going to run high. We will be stopped by the hierarchy, especially because Pluto is now retrograde. Right after Pluto goes retrograde, then that brings Pluto into alignment with the moon, into a square. And so that's where the frustration is going to be for that particular square. Then right afterwards, it's at 6:23 p.m., Mercury goes into Gemini. So Mercury in Gemini is going to bring out a lot of information. Gemini is a chatty sign, and it rules messengers, it rules communications, it rules how we think, what we say. And it is a very social energy, and it is the sign of the twins, which makes it dualistic and duplicitous. It is one of a couple signs that I usually assign to the energy of untruthfulness or lying. And that isn't a blanket statement. It is an attribute that can come out of a lower energy of that particular sign. And so when we have Mercury, the ruling planet in Gemini, it's going to be at its peak for the behavior of Gemini, which is more chatty, more informational. Basically, no filters between thoughts and words. So look for getting our feelings hurt. And of course, technology is going to have a tremendous infusion of electrical energy, which can blow it out. Look for that. The technology is going to be affected. As Mercury goes through the sign, it's going to ultimately go retrograde back into Taurus. And that's within a couple of weeks. We are approaching that shadow period, if not already in it. Let's just double check. Yeah, the shadow period is starting this weekend. So know that whatever comes up verbally is going to have a tremendous power over the next 6 weeks with the retrograde. And so also those issues are going to be the ones that we're dealing with when we initiate something, and then Mercury retrogrades and we review it, and Mercury goes direct, and then we come to a final conclusion. So that is the pattern and process of a Mercury retrograde. Right now, as we approach the shadow period for the intro to the retrograde, that's what we need to do to understand it. We need to find out what our issues are and know that those can be upsetting to us when they don't necessarily culminate in the storyline in the next few weeks. So that being said, yes, you will get an answer. You will get movement in the proper direction again. But because we're entering the retrograde shadow, it's showing us where those contracts, because contracts is also a Mercury attitude, a Mercury issue and realm, where the contracts are not as they should be or should have been. And so we're going to find out more about those contracts over the next few weeks and how those will alter, those will change and shift, and the information will come out. I'm going to go over where the planets are today. So Pluto's at 28 Capricorn and degrees, about to retrograde. Saturn is at 24 degrees, 9 minutes of Aquarius. Mars is at 10 degrees, 17 minutes of Pisces. Neptune also in Pisces, 24 degrees. Venus, 25 degrees of Pisces, and Jupiter, 27 Pisces, which means that Jupiter is in a sextile to Pluto. And right now, Jupiter is approaching Pluto, and Pluto retrograding will mean that there will be a sextile to Pluto on Saturday. So that sextile happens on Tuesday of this coming week. As we continue, Moon is at 13 Aries, Chiron at 13. So the Moon and Chiron are together in Aries, which is a wounding around men or assertiveness or aggression, sales, anything, emergencies, anything that is ruled by Aries. It is youth, it is sports, and it's emergency workers and firefighters and EMTs, police, and also remember it's Black Lives Matter. So there could be some story coming out this end of week from that particular aspect. Also, we have Sun at 8 degrees Taurus. We have Uranus at 14 Taurus. We have North Node at 22 Taurus and Mercury at 28 Taurus, about to go into Gemini, like I said. Okay, so Friday, the Pluto retrograde, Mercury enters Gemini, and Moon enters Taurus. Moon entering Taurus, definitely going to have an effect. Okay, Elon Musk and the Twitter deal. I read this morning, there could be a backing out of the Twitter deal, according to the article I read in a newsletter online called Money Scoop. It wouldn't surprise me, because Pluto is major life change and it retrogrades. And of course, this deal was given right in the shadow period, right as it's about to retrograde, right as the Moon is in a sale sign, but the Sun is in Taurus, which is the material goods from that sale, and Mercury changing signs. I remember when Facebook offered up for public stock, its stock, and Venus was right around a retrograde energy. I believe is in Gemini. And every time we have a Mercury retrograde and also Venus retrograde, Facebook has issues. So I wouldn't be surprised if this Mercury moving into Gemini and Pluto retrograde also affects Facebook. So, I'll be keeping an eye on the stories around Facebook. Also, the North Node at 22 of Taurus, which means a major shift in society, in fate, a fate shift in the collective around money, cryptocurrency, things like that. The stock markets have been really volatile from this morning's news. Interestingly, some of the stocks did not perform as well, like Netflix, and then other stocks performed really well, like Facebook, which wasn't expected to. So maybe that Mercury in Gemini is actually good news for Facebook. We'll see how it goes. And the stellium of planets, or, well, it's not quite a stellium as Mercury moves into Gemini, but today it's Sun, Uranus, and Mercury and the North Node, which is not a planet. It's a point in space. So those are all in Taurus, and that's pretty profound. Like Mercury and degrees of Taurus is definitely pushing the storyline around crypto, around the stock market, and volatility with Uranus joining up in the next 6 days. Sun will join with Uranus this week. Yeah, so the big points this week, though, are the Pluto retrograde, the new moon, solar eclipse, and that means that the moon is between the Earth and the Sun, and that means it's only partial. It's in Antarctica and South America, so we're not going to get a complete eclipse. South America and Antarctica have the eclipse. So look for more stories related to South America with the fallout from that. And again, Pluto turning retrograde affects the earth, bones, joints, the skeleton, teeth. If you're going to the dentist, there's something there. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn means that there are issues that are going to need reworking under this retrograde. So the dental work, the bones and joints, knees, and structures of buildings. Look for potential highway structure issues, buildings. Again, you could see a building collapse. You could see major issues around that. And also the hierarchy of corporations, taxes, government involvement in structure systems. All of that is part of this shift. And politics, big shift. I definitely expect more issues around politics coming back from 2016 through 2020, and the way things have been with politics and political parties. Definitely going to be coming back up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Twitter, because that was going to be kind of a rejuvenation of Donald Trump's basically mouthpiece. So if that deal doesn't go through, things may not change, but retrogrades, he can come up and have more to say. Elon Musk may change his mind. Issues that we thought were set may be up for negotiation again. So look for all that. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep this a little bit shorter this week. And of course, I'm going to make one addendum to the Mercury in late Taurus, and that is Mercury being our voice, and Taurus rules the throat. You can hear that, my voice is a little hoarse, and I might have a sore throat and something going on in that area. It will affect throat chakras. It'll affect our voice and singing. So if you have issues with singing right now or music, that's under Mercury in Taurus, because it rules beauty and beauty of sound and also music. So that's also one little addendum I wanted to add there. Okay, so Amber Heard and what's going on. Amber Heard's chart, she's April 22nd, 1986. So this whole lawsuit started really close to her birthday. I think it started like 2 days before her birthday or 1 day before her birthday. And so she definitely has a connection in her chart to it. I was trying to reconcile her chart because her birth time is unknown. So I actually called up 2 different birth charts, one for a sunrise chart and one for where I think her planets may fall, which gives her Gemini rising. She's got, in the chart that I kind of settled on, it's 8:52 a.m., which is a Gemini rising, but it puts Uranus, Neptune, and Mars in her house of marriage. And Neptune rules movies. So, the person she marries, Neptune, Mars, which gives her, it can give her an idealized view, universal love over the person she marries, but can also make her kind of a black widow and give her that desperate need to identify connectivity of self with the partner, with the male energy. Again, because it's Pluto, because it's Capricorn, it's going to be a shift. She's been dealing with a shift around this issue as Pluto hit those planets. And that was right around the time she got married. And now Pluto is at the end degrees of Capricorn, but will shift into Aquarius. In this chart, that still means it's in her house of commitment. And when it goes into Aquarius, it will trigger her Uranus, which in this chart shows it's at 22. Well, it is at 22 Sagittarius, but it also puts it in her marriage house. So, I'm going to say that that can alter, given that we don't really know what time she was born. But reading this chart, you can always infer things in a chart. And yes, in this chart, there's Sagittarius Saturn, and that means that there's travel involved, or work is part of something that she has to travel for. Life purpose may relate more towards, and interestingly, Sagittarius is where I look for lesbian energy, and she has Saturn in Sagittarius. And when she met Johnny Depp, she had a wife, and so there was definitely a trigger of that energy. And interestingly, She has Uranus also in Sagittarius, which means there's not necessarily a solid energy that is going to ground in that relationship. And having Uranus in the house of marriage can mean she will change her mind and shift and change the energy of what direction she's going. So again, Uranus rules LGBTQ. So there is in this chart a very strong energy around a change of mind, a change of course between who she's with. And so having Uranus, it's the alternate lifestyle, and that shifted her lifestyle in marriage and partnership. And then we have and that could also have happened through Saturn and Aquarius, which is transiting right now. Pluto at n degrees of Capricorn in her house of legalities would directly relate to what she's going on right now with the lawsuit. Saturn in late Aquarius in her 9th house. She is going through an Aquarian energy, and that, of course, is answering to Uranus in her 7th house of marriage. So that would directly relate. In this chart, she's also got Mars in her house of career in Pisces, transiting her Jupiter. Mars in Pisces at 10 degrees is going to be squaring her natal Saturn in Sagittarius. So that's a really difficult thing because her Jupiter squares her Saturn within 5 degrees. In Pisces, Jupiter expands that addiction that she has in her personality. It's up in the public eye, which may mean, this chart might be off slightly, but Jupiter up there pretty close to the midheaven is getting attention for that Jupiter, for that addictive personality. Jupiter is also where I look for polarity and bipolar energy in a person's personality. And Mars on her Jupiter in Pisces could be triggering that energy, especially with a square to Saturn. It's kind of dead center between her Uranus in Sag and her Saturn in Sag. And so that energy could be triggered for her. Saturn in the 6th house can also mean that there is a restriction around some type of movement in health. Maybe she isn't as healthy as she may appear. And it could have to do with something that goes on with the physical body, or honestly, that's also a bit of a restriction. She's sitting in the courtroom all this time. If you look at her, she looks really kind of empty and sad. And honestly, brings out sympathy and compassion in me, both people playing out this very intimate situation in the public eye cannot be very comfortable. I know right now as a collective, we are going through this need to withdraw and hold back some energy. Capricorn is not a sign that tends to really like getting a lot of attention for negative things. They're very self-conscious, and she has Neptune, Mars in Capricorn. And then, of course, Pluto is going to trigger some of that as well. And then Mars, Neptune, Venus, and Jupiter are also very much right now pulling back our desire to be in the public eye. But because that transit in this chart shows more attraction to filmmaking, that is really triggered in her chart. And even if it were just a sunrise chart, having, let me see, her sun is in Taurus, which would put Pisces in a sunrise chart in the house of community for people she knows with her career. And so the people she knows through her career, which definitely Depp is one of them, is being triggered right now, and that energy is coming out. So there's major shifts. Jupiter in last degrees of Pisces shifting into Aries soon, which right now Jupiter is going to go into Aries soon in the next couple of weeks, and then it will trigger her Mercury. And that's really when a lot of information can come out on her part, because Jupiter wants to just tell the story and not have any holds barred. So Jupiter on her Mercury, if this trial is still going on in the beginning of May, will definitely bring out a lot of information from her. And I don't think she's been on the stand yet. I could be wrong, but if she does go on the stand after this point, she's going to bring out a lot of information that is probably going to be not pleasant. and potentially hurtful to, of course, Johnny Depp. But we'll see. We'll see what Jupiter does to her Jupiter. I know it's going to make her much more chatty. She's got Chiron going through her 11th house of community in this chart, and that means that she's going to have more difficulty with men. Moon there on Chiron today, so today's going to be probably a particularly difficult day in this trial. And by that, I'm talking Thursday, the 28th, but I'm probably going to post this the 29th, so will have been yesterday by the time this is posted. And then Sun in Taurus, and she's just past a solar return. And so the Sun is coming up on Uranus, which is something unusual, unexpected happening, and that going into the 12th house for her in this chart. And she's got Venus natally in Taurus and then Chiron natally in Gemini. So really her chart is very lit up right now for all of her transits, with the exception of her moon, but then her moon is in Libra at 5 degrees, and that means Mercury is opposite her natal moon, and Jupiter is going to trigger an opposition to her natal moon. It doesn't look good for her in this trial as far as really getting out of it unscathed. And as far as whether or not I think she's telling the truth, I think absolutely her chart has triggers for abuse with Taurus planets. Venus in late degrees Taurus at 24 can definitely say that there is some type of abuse. And let's see, Johnny Depp, his chart, his Taurus is Mercury Venus. So of course they're conjunct in his chart. They're at the exact same degree. And that means that communication for him is very much in alignment with more of a feminine means of communication, because Taurus, the energy of Taurus imbued in Mercury and Venus, not only Mercury in Taurus is going to give more of a receptive demeanor, a quiet, demure way of speaking and coming across, which I find to be really true with him in every interview. He's not very gregarious. Venus doubling that energy is definitely going to accent more of an empathy towards women. And yet, interestingly, he also said that he was abused by his mother growing up. And so that energy, late degrees in his chart, I think they actually share that. That's the hook in their charts, is this verbal abuse in more of a feminine dynamic in their relationship, is this emotionalism, which I hesitate to say is only feminine, but you have to admit that women are much more in touch intuitively with that nature, and that men have really developed the ability of shoving down their emotions in society because of what has been expected in the more corporate environment, in the more assertive, ambitious side of life. They've had to really detach from the emotionalism. So interestingly, I think he is rather a face of the feminine, receptive, emotional side in a man. And so he's kind of showing that face in more of a middle-aged man. There are other people who kind of show the receptive feminine way of interacting. Justin Baldoni from Jane the Virgin, as an actor and a celebrity, kind of comes to mind with that energy, more receptive feminine energy. Trying to think of Harry Styles. I don't know what his chart is, but off the top of my head, he definitely shows that receptive feminine way. And he has a new song called Boyfriend out that is kind of from the perspective of the feminine energy having a boyfriend. So, you know, that is an expression of the younger generation. So all those three generations really show a feminine way, or what is traditionally feminine, receptive, emotional connectivity. So I guess I just want to qualify it when I say emotions can be more feminine, only from the standpoint of intuition and really accessing emotion more freely, but not necessarily saying that women are the more emotional gender, although it has been assigned that way in society. The moon being a significator of more feminine, motherly energy, but definitely men experience the emotionalism of that. And I have family members who are masculine, receptive with the moon energy. So anyway, I digress. And that's just what I wanted to touch on so far with Amber. I do see her ability in that Gemini energy in her chart. Chiron is in Gemini, and she also has Pluto in Scorpio. So there is a vindictive side. Pluto in Scorpio was a generation, and she really has that ability to hit where it hurts. And then in Johnny Depp, he has that Neptune in Scorpio. So her Pluto's on his Neptune. So they have this unspoken connection, this really deep, addictive, unspoken emotional connection. He recognized her, and I would venture to say it's a highly karmic relationship. Saturn right now, he's in that Saturn return in Aquarius. And so that is in the public eye. He's chosen to play this out in her chart in the public eye. So, are very close to the midheaven. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you have any comments, I'm going to put these up on the forum on my website. So they'll be on angeliczodiac.com. And I'll also put the link in the descriptions for both the audio and the video for this particular podcast. And I want to thank you for showing up, and see if there's anything else I want to say. I think that's it for the time being. Definitely going to be some interesting times ahead this week and this weekend. So buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and we'll see you next week. Take care. 6 months, 5 months. I'm going to edit this too.
Hey, this is Shelley. I wanted to give you a heads up that there are a lot of new art prints at shelleyoverton.com. So go over there and check them out. SHELLEYOVERTON.com. Thanks.
Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, including discounts. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at Astro Energy Astrology Show.